Greetings to all of you, and thank you for being here for this presentation. I am so humble to be standing here before you. Now, we all are aware that there's a mega research out there, and it's been published, depicting the correlation between Caucasian teachers and black students in the classroom. So, why am I giving this presentation? Well, I believe most of the published information was lacking in substance. They didn't go inside the classroom and analyze the relationship between black students and Caucasian teachers, as I did with my research. I did my research empirically. Here's something else that they did not note. The income of the parents, and that's so significant, because if you have black students whose families are middle level income people, then they're going to have a better behavior. Their output will be greater than those students that come to you where their parents is on some kind of government assistance, or maybe they don't even work. Nonetheless, consider this. If you are just beginning your labor as a teacher, chances are you will be sent to a low-level performing urban school. That's the way it is. Can Caucasian teachers be successful teaching black students? Well, we're going to see about that. I hope to shed some light on that. But first, let me introduce myself so you can see if I'm qualified to give this presentation. I'm Clifton A. Castile. I'm a former education researcher and a former classroom teacher. I have published numerous articles for peer review depicting the relationship between Caucasian teachers and black students. And most of my published articles were done empirically. I went into the classroom. I sat there. I did my observation there. And I went into middle schools, high schools. I saw the two entities up close, the Caucasian teachers and black students in their relationship. I sincerely would advise you to visit my internet website, which is cliftonacastile.com, and there you can download all of my publications, and they're free. And I think you're going to be inspired as a Caucasian teacher to hear what they said about the black students, rather said about being taught by Caucasian teachers. Now, I should note that my previous video discussion with you is where I said some things that you could do to improve the cognition of your students. I call this procedure a prescriptive diagnostic evaluation approach to learning, and that's for everyone. It doesn't have anything to do with race. However, in this presentation, we will focus primarily on teacher communication in the classroom between the two entities. And hopefully, after this presentation, you'll be able to have a fruitful classroom, a more productive classroom, and learning will be realized. But first, let me underscore and express a few things that you probably already are aware of. And that is, in most cases, black students don't come to school to learn. Black people use more illicit drugs than Caucasians. Children who drop out of school will do so in the high school years. Black students prefer a teacher of their own race. Parents of black students are generally uninterested in the education and well-being of their children. They send them to school only because it's mandated. Academic work should be slightly watered down or moderated for black students. This is very worth noting. School resource officers, mostly policemen, should be visible in the urban school to provide comfort for teachers and students. They're needed. Now, I would like to ask each one of you to ask yourself, what I said is valid, okay? Most of you believe what I said is valid, right? Well, it's all wrong. Everything I said is invalid. And why would you believe it? We're going to talk about that. why you would believe those negative connotations about a race of people. Some of you, that is. But first, let's analyze a few things here. Most blacks come to school to learn. Blacks do not use more illicit drug than Caucasian. It's about 50-50 according to statistics. And children drop out of school in the middle school years. And black students do not necessarily prefer a teacher of their own race. Now, this article that I did concerning this here was well received by my peers. And that is, after I did surveys and went inside the classroom, the black students said, we don't care what race the teacher is, as long as they care about us and treat us fairly. Academic work should not be watered down. You send the wrong message. Now, how about this? School resource officers should not be visible in urban school. Why are they there? They cause more harm than giving comfort. And we know that policemen are trained to give instructions. And if you don't follow those, physical harm will take place. And we know that children are going through their solid days of youth. They're going to give some feedback. And these policemen are not counselors, these resource officers. So why do we have them there? They are counterproductive. Do we hear or witness black students shooting up the classroom or something, or killing their peers? No, we don't. But most concerning here is why you believe all of these negative connotations that I stated. Now, I'm not talking about all of you. Could it be that you have been bombarded and awash with negative views of black people? The news have painted them in a very derogatory manner. I mean, they're truculent, they're drug-infested people. They don't care about their welfare. They're violent. The second reason you might have believed what I said is that you have never had a relationship with black people, period. You went to school in the suburb, some elite school, so you didn't come in contact with black people. You don't know what to think. And conversely, your black students have never been around Caucasians in a positive manner. So both of you all are going to have to do some work. Fill each other out. Respect each other. Now, let me say something else to you. Have you read this? Some educators have suggested without validation that Caucasian teachers must have special training to teach in urban schools. That's foolish thinking. How about this? Treat black students as you would Caucasians. But why am I concerned about Caucasian teachers? Why is this presentation about Caucasian teachers? Well, consider this. By the year 2025, Caucasian teachers will make up about 94% of teachers teaching in the public school system. And we know that the public school system is about 98 or 100% black students in the urban settings. So I think it's prudent to say that your behavior will be on display. Having said this much now, let's discuss and review a few classroom communication procedures which you, as a Caucasian teacher, can and should employ to have a more productive and fruitful classroom for your students and to make learning fun as it should be. Let me talk about a few things here. We're going to talk about proper procedures, how to address your students. We're going to talk about the correct protocol to vanquish or at least mitigate disciplines. Most of all, though, we're going to talk about how to hold a parent-teacher conference. That is so significant. Now, all of this has to do with communication. Consider this. If the lines of communication are stagnant, nothing will get done. They must be fluid. As a Caucasian teacher, You may not be sure how to address your charges. This is communication. Do I call them by their nickname as their peers do? Do I use jargons like dude or bruh? And maybe I should, because maybe they'll like me more, be more attentive to me. If I scream at one of them, will they become hostile and aggressive towards me? Do they hate white people? Do they come to school to learn? Yes, I would say they do. Consider this. Majority of your students are not indocile. Your students are not incorrigible or scapegraces. Rather, they are students who want to learn to better themselves in life. Or they wouldn't come to school because they'd find some other avenue to occupy their time. Note this. If you go into the classroom as a Caucasian teacher or any teacher, feeling your students can't learn and they don't take learning seriously, you will fail. And your students will fail, and they'll suffer for a lifetime. It is safe to say some of your pupils will enter your classroom that can't be really helped or taught, and they must leave. Also, some of your students are going to come in with depression or depressing issues, such as lack of money, being harassed by law officials, bad environment, poor housing. And you're saying, what does that got to do with me? I'm paid to be a teacher. True. But you can mitigate some of that. You can be more understandable. Because if you believe in them, your students, they will believe in themselves. If you think they're nobody, they'll wind up being nobody. But you shouldn't water down the curriculum, as I said before. It sends the wrong message. Never make unappealing statements such as, you people, do you want to learn, you people? Why don't you stay home? Again, all of this is oral, effective communication that's going to help you to be a more productive teacher. Listen to this much, and this is involving you and your students. To be appreciated, one must be appreciative to others. To be respected, one must be respectable. That is you and your students. Children will not perform well when they don't respect you. And the reason is they don't believe that you respect or care about them. Try smiling as often as you can. Apologize when you make a mistake. It sends a message that I'm human and I expect for you all to apologize. Keep in mind, some of these students have never heard, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And your students will emulate you in your behavior. If it's negative, they're going to do that. From time to time, orally congratulate your students for exceptional behavior or academic output. This is very, very rewarding to them. Now, this might sound over the top, but I assure you it isn't. How about adding a handle to your student's given name, such as Miss Latanya, Mr. Deshaun? Consider this. I had the pleasure of teaching in a high school for 1 year where teachers referred to their students as Mr. and Miss. And this was just an average academic high school, nothing exceptional. The makeup was about 85% Caucasian teachers, and about 60% of the students were black students. But teaching was outstanding, and learning was taking place, and there was little discipline to be attended to. And I do believe by calling students Mr. Miss, it says to the students, I respect you, and you are capable of being a young adult. And that's what you are. And you know, this gives them a badge of honor to live up to. Somebody cares about me. And no matter the age or gender, every person wants to be respected. And you know, in most cases, most of these, your students, when they get to be adults, they may not ever hear Mr. Miss, or seldom. Listen to this. In my numerous observation, I visit many urban schools and witness Caucasian teachers who had wonderful classes. That's why I went there, because I wanted to analyze the relationship between Caucasian teachers and black students. Well, listen to this. They were very attentive in all the classes, and learning was taking place. The classes were overcrowded. The schools had reputations of being academically challenged, and the physical structure of the buildings were deplorable. On the other hand, students seemed to appreciate the fact that someone of authority cared about them and wanted them to learn. And these were low economically students, their families, I should say. They were on some type of government assistance. Most of them were on food stamp. I think it was 95%. What does that say? If you treat them correctly with the respect, they'll want to learn. Don't issue busy work. Try sitting at your desk less as possible. All this is communication. Walk around the classroom. This way you send two messages. I want to help you. You're struggling. That's what I'm here for. The next message that you send to them, I'm going to cut down on talking in the classroom. What does all that have to do? It has everything to do with communication. Everything positive. Should you offer encouragement to your students for small achievements? Yes. Consider this. Most of your students have heard 15 reprimands or put downs or castigation to one praise or encouragement. So give kudos as often as possible. This won't show that you're weak and they're going to disrespect you. It's just the opposite. When procuring daily assignments, try acknowledging each student with thank you, Mr. LeBron. Thank you, Miss Tiffany. When you ask the student to respond, do the same thing. Research studies reveal this. When teachers write short positive statements on their students' papers, after they have returned them, the next time the students' output will go up because they want to prove to you, because you think that they can do it, and so they will try harder. And you might want to say something like this. I see that you almost came close to getting this done, Mr. Robert. You can come back during one of my other classes and you can pick up what you missed. I'll talk to your PE teacher, something like that. You can construct a survey, I did, where you ask the students to evaluate you. What needs to be improved in the classroom? Classroom discipline techniques. Sending a student to the discipline office, it's not going to do very much. Temporarily it will. How about having a one-on-one conference outside of the classroom, or send them to the counselor? Instead of screaming or raising your voice, how about slowly walking back to the student where you're teaching and kind of whisper something like, I'd appreciate if you would desist with that talking. And you can meet with coworkers and get some pointers, especially if you are a beginning teacher. And you can ask about, do you have little Mr. Johnny, and is he disruptive in your classroom? And ask a teacher maybe to observe you, to give you some pointers. Consider this, most disruptions occur because the student is bored, or the student lesson is too challenging, or it's too watered down. Never tell a student you have a bad attitude. The problem will just escalate. You embarrass them in front of their peers, they're not going to let you win. Flood your statements with thank you and please. They seldom hear, oh, I thank you. That was so wonderful. Please do this. Become creative. Use the Hawthorne effect. Mr. Hawthorne proved that if you change the environment, production will go up. So if you move around some seats, and maybe decorate your board, I can assure you that learning will go up. Have guest speakers out there as often as you think possible. No professionals though, because they can't identify with them. Have someone that maybe have a small business, who dropped out of school, who became pregnant or something, and they can tell them why they should have stayed in school and they should stay in school, etc., etc. Eat in the cafeteria once in a while if you can stomach it. Attend extracurricular activities. This shows that you care about them. And subscribe to some professional journal in your discipline, such as Phi Delta Kappa. You'll get some pointers there. And you can go on the internet and get some. Now, if everything else fails in your discipline, problems are still escalated, or perhaps the academic work is poor, then you want to involve the parent, and you're going to have a parent-teacher conference. Now, the parent always, well, nearly, a mother, maybe a grandparent. Either way, you want to make the atmosphere pleasant. You know, people can feel a hostile environment. And don't make a predetermined opinion. Oh, they must be on welfare. They don't work. They're probably hostile like their kid. What do I do with them? Well, you shouldn't believe that. Because if you believe that, communication will not go anywhere. Keep in mind, a parent feels embarrassed to have to come to school. I don't care what race it is. It sends a message to them, they think, that you are saying they don't know how to control their kid. Listen to this. Most of these people that come to you, parent or caretaker, are low-wage workers. They have been mistreated by the establishment. So you want to give eye-to-eye contact. You might want to say, Miss X, may I get you something to drink? And you do that with a smile. And you get directly to the problem that you're having with the child. Don't beat around the bush. I asked for this conference, Miss X, so you and I can improve the well-being of your child. See how that sounds? Don't say he is running my class. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what's wrong with him. If you give the caretaker an input in the decisions, how to have a better production, they'll be glad. They'll tell you a lot of things because they know their child better than you. And when you end this conference, say something positive about the child. And you might want to let the child sit in if you want to and give his or her take on why the problem exists. You know, if you're going to issue progress reports, and you should, that is so significant. You want to say your child, Mr. Robert, has made significant improvement, maybe in behavior, or maybe has not, or academic output. Either way, you want to express that with the parent. And you also want to tell them, when is your planning period? Please call me. I'm here to help. I want to help. And when you say Mr. to about their kid, Mr. Robert or someone, they'll say, my God, this teacher respects us. Now, in conclusion, what is the takeaway here? Well, Caucasian teacher, it says that you can be effective in the classroom teaching black students. Yes, you must be understanding. You must be patient. And you must believe in your students that they can learn and they want to learn. And you can do the job. And yes, you will have to exhibit and be super irrigation. But this protocol should help you to be a better teacher. Spend some more time. And if you motivate your students extrinsically at first, they'll motivate themselves intrinsically. And you will have a fruitful and productive class. And you will feel good. You'll say, I made a difference. It was hard work, yes. But I accomplished my tasks, my goals. Now, I want to thank you for participating in this narrative. I hope it was informative to you. And I would like for you to forward this information to one of your colleagues. Now, they could be a Caucasian teacher already teaching black students, or they could be a beginning one. Either way, I think you will be productive. And please leave your comments about this presentation. I would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for participating. We got through it, didn't we?